I was born on the 5th of July 1948. So I've always thought of myself as, well, not the NHS baby, because I'm sure there were a few others, but yes, always been conscious of it.
I was born in August 1948 and I was the first baby our GP had ever delivered.
Right, well, I was born 28 days before the NHS was born, and so my mum and dad had to pay for me to go into a maternity bed in the clinic in Colchester. And Mum has never failed to stop telling me that it cost her £1.07 to have me.
When I was born, they gave me a number, which is in effect my national health number. And I had that all the way through to, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or something. They changed them and gave us a long number. But this was my original number, MIDW 93.
I was born on the 29th of July 1948 in Lennox Castle in Stirlingshire in the middle of a huge thunderstorm. I was one of the first babies in Scotland to be born under the NHS.
Well, I was born in Worthing Hospital 70 years ago.
Well, I was born just before the NHS was born on the 26th of March 48. I'm born in a nursing home, and I think my mum and dad had to pay a little bit of money for me to go in there.
Well, I was born in December 1948, the year birth was given to the NHS. And there have been various times throughout my life that the NHS has done its stuff, and boy has it done its stuff well.
I lived in Kuwait for 2.5 years working with the Kuwait Army, and I took up scuba diving out there. And I found after a while I was having terrible problems with my sinuses. So I went to see the Kuwait military doctor, who was a very nice fella and obviously well educated. And he said, you need an operation on your sinuses, up above the nose end here somewhere. He said, so they're not draining properly, and that's your problem. And I said, fine, we'll sort it. And he said something very nice. He said, I think it may be better if you could arrange for your military to take you back to the UK and get it done on your national health system, because they have such a good reputation out here. So that's exactly what I did. On my mid-tour leave, they arranged for me to go into hospital and have the sinus operation. So the NHS's reputation for quality had reached Kuwait.
I've always been a big fan, partly from an emotional point of view, but partly because it just works. Just works.
My recent experience was having a stroke in 2015, and I was just amazed by how much help I had all the way through, right from when the medics came and at 5 o'clock in the morning and took me into hospital, and then I was in there for 2 weeks. I had not only to have a stroke, I had a blood clot on my leg and on my lungs as well. The help, the treatment I got was amazing. Not just in the hospital, but when we came home, almost a few days afterwards, somebody came along to the house to see what help we needed, and they put in a new banister in our stairs and gave me some extra equipment to use the bath, and then I had a physiotherapist come every week as well. And I think, with all that, without all that help, things might have turned out quite differently. But I'm pretty much back to what I was before the stroke now, which is really good.
Both of my daughters had to have caesareans. Can't say that word, caesareans. And one of them was an emergency caesarean. And if it hadn't been for the NHS hospital that they were in, I don't know what would have happened. I mean, in the old days, my youngest one would have died, and so would the baby. Yeah, and I'm eternally grateful. And I think the NHS is the best thing ever.
I think it's one of the best things that's happened in this country, and I've not found very much wrong with it while I've been around for the last 70 years.
An article there, it says 1948, children born in 1948 are the luckiest children.
About 40 years ago, I had to go in for an operation, because a woman's operation thingy, and at the time the National Health expected you to stay in for about 2 or 3 days just to monitor you and make sure you were fine, and they didn't like you walking about too much. Recently, 2 months ago I think in fact, I went back for something similar, and today's National Health showed me pictures of it on a screen. I could watch everything that was being done, and it was done with a laser beam, the very latest technology by a fantastic surgeon and her team who talked to me throughout the whole thing. And in 3 hours I was able to get up, sit down, have a cup of tea and go home. And that is the most marvellous experience, and how they've changed in the time 40 years ago when I first had something done to about 2 months ago. It's amazing, quite remarkable.
As I say, I've been a healthy person until a couple of years ago when I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, quite advanced, and all of a sudden I needed the stuff, and now I went through several urologists, lovely nurses. I've now used that phrase that no one wants to use, my oncologist, great oncologist, the GPs are on their game, and then you start to realise that with the modern NHS, of course, all the computer systems are there in the background. So for instance, one of my blood tests, my iron count was low, and the system automatically highlighted it to my GP, who rang me. Now, years ago that would never have happened.
We're envied over the world for our system, which is great, but I think it does need a bit of a shake-up.
If we can buy medications at 1/10 of the price or half the price that it's costing the NHS, educate us on that. Educate us to take more control of our lives and our well-being, and that if we want the NHS to look after us as we get older, to stop abusing it.
There are a lot of positive aspects to the NHS, far more positive aspects, and there are a lot of people working, particularly frontline nurses and doctors and carers, who really have a vocation, a real calling to what they do, and so often that is done down.
I think the NHS is brilliant with its ideas and trying to come up with new ways of doing the old things, i.e. having longer clinics, more doctor's appointments, weekend opening. I think the NHS is a brilliant idea. I think it's just got to be brought up to date.
So maybe health centres could, the doctor's surgery and the health centre could be more like a drop-in centre, that people could go in there for a chat and a cup of tea, and maybe not bother the doctors so much, so the doctors will be freer to actually see people that need to be seen. So I think there are ways that it can change without taking the ethos of the whole thing away.
So I feel overall that through my life, when serious situations have arisen, the NHS has been absolutely brilliant, and I don't know what we'd do if we didn't have it.
Well, the NHS has been really good to me over the years because I've had my problems, like a lot of people have. But I've never had any trouble. And I just think it's so wonderful that we've got this NHS, and so does the rest of the world. I have some health problems, but I always have the consultants at my beck and call. In fact, they leave messages on my phone without calling me into the hospital to save time for the patients that really need our help.
Happy birthday, NHS, and long may you survive. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
NHS, keep going. Happy birthday. Have a good one.
Happy birthday to the National Health by the NHS.
I want to say keep on doing what you're doing, because I think it's just marvellous, all of it.
Happy birthday to the NHS. You're certainly in better condition than I am, and both may we live a long and healthy life.
I'm just so grateful that our NHS in this country operates the way it does, free at the point of delivery, because it's absolutely something we can be so very proud of.
Well, my message to the National Health is a heartfelt and very warm thank you for all the good care you've taken of me for the past 70 years. Your motto, from cradle to grave, has certainly been exceeded by far what we expected from you. So, cheers, National Health, and here's to the next 70 plus years.
Happy birthday, NHS, and I hope we go on for many, many more years.
That's lovely.
I would like to wish the NHS happy 70th birthday, and that's easy for me to do because it's the same day. And here's to another 70 years of the NHS.